welcome to the Corning Museum of Glass, and for those of you live streaming, welcome to the Corning Museum of Glass. We have a very special demonstration. This is Matteo Seguso, right there in the middle of the studio. Let's give him a warm round of applause. You can clap at home, too. Yeah. He is going to be making what we have over there drawn on the board. We will get into what that means, so I want to introduce the team first. Assisting him will be Dane Jack right here. And then, keep going. Catherine Ayers will also be assisting. We have Josh Lobbs as well, and Benjamin Ewing. Thank you, everybody, for the clapping. My name's Katie. I'm going to be chatting with you guys. If you have questions here, raise your hand. I'd love to get those answered. Same with online. Please submit those questions. We can get those answered as well. All right, so we're going to get right into it. Dane has gathered a little bit of glass on the end of a blowpipe. That glass is at 2100 degrees. It moves like honey and also gives off its own light. With that as well, it is a yellowish hue. And Dane, what is this first part?
We're going to make kind of the lid or the dome for this piece.
The lid, okay. We're going to start with the lid. Great. So how this is put together right now is that we have a garage here. This garage is at about 1,000 degrees. It's keeping some of our parts warm. Inside there we have 3 cups and 3 stems. And we're going to add the cup and the stem together. Right. And we're going to put that inside of the dome. But Matteo here is a beautiful, beautiful glass engraver. If anybody wants to come down and look at this more, please do. He is an engraving maestro from Murano. Very, very talented. He has engraved the things that are in the garage that we're going to put together. And Dane here will kind of be helping him do that. So he is mostly... He is engraving driven, so this is mainly what he does. The Hot Shop, I'm not sure about that so much, but we are here to have Dane help him as well. And the whole team will be here to help. So yeah, if you want to come down, check this out. It's going to be sitting right here next to me. Beautiful little scene there. So in order to get all these things put together, we'll have the dome part is going to be made right now. We have the other parts in the garage, which I think we have feet in there too. Yes, so those will all be put together onto the bottom part, and then we'll put those things all together. So the cup will be put together, connected to the bottom part, and then that dome will be connected onto the top of it. It's going to be really amazing. It's going to be quite the feat here. It's going to be great. So our molten hot glass moving like honey. We need to keep the pipe turning at all times, so we'll always be turning that pipe.
Not for very long.
Dane here is organizing that second gather of glass with a wooden block. That wooden block is great for cooling and shaping.
Too big?
And as it gets to a certain size and degree, he'll start to shape it with different tools. This one here being a newspaper. This one is made out of newspaper. It's about 5 or 6 sheets folded up. We keep it wet throughout our demonstration, or throughout the day, really, so that when we're using it, it doesn't burn the paper away. And so right now, we're just looking for a nice, even bubble. We're going to get a couple more gathers on this. That reheating chamber that he's using right now is at 2150, so maybe just a little bit warmer than our actual furnace where we keep all of our glass. We're going to use that chamber to reheat our glass. And you'll see him go back and forth, back and forth. You'll see us mainly working out of that are at the bench. It's because we can't let our glass get too cold. If it does, it will break. So we'll always keep it warm. And because we need more than one gather here, Dane's going to get this into a really nice shape that's conducive for gathering all those gathers. Make sure all the walls are the right thickness, the right evenness. They'll have the glass in the right place, let it cool down a little bit, and then gather over it. So we do let the glass get colder, but not so cold that we can't still work on it. So when our glass gets cold, it becomes rigid, and that rigidity helps us have some stability sometimes when we need it. So once we get this nice and cool, we'll gather again. So the more glass we add, the heavier the pipe will get. That pipe is stainless steel. It's hollow, so you can blow into it. The amount of glass, I think what might end up with would probably be, I'm not sure yet. I can't give you a good answer for that right now. But the amount he has right now is maybe about 5 pounds. But anything farther away from your center of gravity, which when you see Dane bring that up, you see how much farther away from that center of gravity he is, right? It's going to add some weight to the pipe. And also, we can't grab the pipe really close up. We have to kind of have it back towards us in that shiny area of the pipe. So it's going to add a little extra weight than is actually there. So there's our third gather. He's checking out the evenness. And so I should go in a little bit more about these engravings that Matteo does here. So these engravings, in order to engrave glass, you must cut it with something, right? So these are all engraved on the lathe, right, with diamond bits. You can get all kinds of different shapes of diamond bits and use the lathe that's water fed to carve out these notches. And I don't know if any of you, has anybody tried to engrave glass? It's really hard. It's really hard. So Matteo has done a great amount of training to get to where he is. These images are wonderful. We've got some birds, kind of a tree landscape scene here. It's lovely. And he is from Murano. So if any of you are familiar with glass, you know Murano is very, very important. And in Murano is kind of one of the largest hubs. Do you want to see this too? Yeah. All right, we're going to get a shot of this for the camera so everyone can kind of see this. Is that not going to be too bad? Okay. Just to, are you sure? It'll sit kind of flat. There you go. All right, great. So can you all see that? There you go, beautiful shot. Yeah, give it up for him.
Are there 2 of those?
Awesome. Cool, yeah, so if you want to come see that closer, there's lots of fine details. It's quite beautiful. I'm going to hang this back where it belongs. All right. So glass in Murano is very important. Engraving is huge in Murano as well. And he is quite the master, absolutely. So here we have the 4th and final gather. And so we have one of our larger blocks. You see that they have gone up in size as our gathers have gone up in size as well. So once again, just getting this into a nice even shape. We want our walls to be even. It's kind of weird and wonky to have a thin area on your glass and a thicker area in your glass. It kind of feels weird to make something like that. It kind of gets everything off kilter. but also it threatens the integrity of the glass itself. So annealing it could be, or slow cooling it could hurt the glass if you have uneven sides. So evenness is key. So the larger this piece gets, the larger our reheating chamber opening gets as well. That will probably get pretty large as we go. It's gonna get a little hotter over there, but these guys are used to that heat. 2200 degrees spitting out of that is a little warm, but nothing we can't handle. So when we pull these pieces out of the garage and put them together, they are already engraved by Matteo. He's engraved them previously, and you will still see those engravings on them. So we're not going to get these pieces so warm that those engravings melt away. And that's kind of the point of this, is to have those engravings, get them warm enough to where they can attach to other pieces, but not to where that engraving melts away. Do we have any questions in the audience so far about anything?
Blow just a little bit, gotcha.
So here we're going to incorporate some help from Catherine. She's going to be inflating that so we can push that shape out from the inside. Use that newspaper to cool the outside. We're going to use this torch here called a bench torch or a fluffy torch and heat up an area called the neck in order for us to get a line in this piece. And every piece that we make has to have a line in it. That line is called a neckline or a jack line. We'll be able to take that piece away from the pipe using that line. So it's kind of like scoring the glass with a place that we can break the glass with that neckline. So getting it a little bit more extra heat with that bench torch. That bench torch is at 2200 degrees. So a little bit of extra heat helps it to move in that area, so spot heating.
Have a gallery you sell at then?
So we can really get that line in all at once.
Okay. Yep.
All right, here we go. Bring it back. Dane will clench down those jacks around that line. As he does, his hand will be guarded by Benjamin. It's also important to inflate during this move for some shapes. And you can really see how much of a team we have to have going to make these sort of things. Anything larger or detailed or with many components needs a team behind it. So we will use every single person here. I might even jump in. We'll see. That tool there is called a pair of jacks. They're very important. You'll see us use those quite often, even for this demonstration. And they're kind of designed, I believe, after sheep shears. Here's a really great pair here. So these are called blades. They're not necessarily sharp. They're really good for squeezing that line down. You can also flatten things with the straps there at the top. All right, so we can see inside that reheating chamber really well. We have a camera behind it that is separated from the heat by a thick piece of fused silica. Fused silica, you might be familiar with fiber optics. That's what fused silica is. It's a type of glass made with silica that's been fused together. It's very, very clear. It's very, very heat resistant. So having it behind that reheating chamber is great for that camera. Keeps it nice and safe. So Dane here is sizing the width of that kind of topper. So that topper is just that dome piece that's going to go over. It has to have a bottom to sit on. That bottom has to be the right size. So we're going to get it into a really, I guess we're going to take the size of it. Just so we at least know to make the thing a little bit bigger than that. And he's got both length and width going, which is great.
Lead it until I'll stretch it a little bit here though.
So Dane says we're going to stretch this piece. We're going to put it inside that reheating chamber. We're going to bring it out. We're going to let gravity take it down towards the ground. So we're going to let it elongate. Gravity is a great tool here in the hot shop. You see that Dane's always turning, right? If he were to stop turning, our piece would fall towards the ground. That's gravity, letting it win. So if we point the pipe towards the ground, it'll elongate our pieces for us. If you ever see glassware pointing a pipe up into the air, it'll kind of squat our pieces. So he's not going to heat up the entire thing, and kind of from this point on, you won't really see us heating the entire thing for long periods of time. Just heating that bottom part. And here he goes, letting that fall down towards the ground, elongating it, and getting a reading. So a big bubble, a big warm bubble, is very, very warm, especially when your arm is right next to it. Catherine's there shielding him, as members of our other team is helping as well. All right, we're bringing out a very important tool here. This is called the V-board. And this is really helpful for us to get kind of like parallel sides that look really straight sides of a vessel. And so it's just wood lined with paper. That paper is going to act as the same thing as the newspaper. We just wetted it a little bit. He's going to just turn it really quickly in that newspaper, and that's going to help even out those sides, make it really nice and straight. So if you ever see a cylinder that's tall, any of these cylinders actually right here, we definitely use that V-board to do so, to get them exactly straight. It also looks pretty cool. A little fire coming off of it. You see how those sides went from round to straight? Yeah. We meant to do that. All right, so we want this to be to the right shape. We'll measure it a couple more times. Eventually, we're going to punty this up and transfer it over onto a different iron, the iron being the punty. And we'll do that transfer in order to open this up. So we have those straight sides that will come down, right, and end kind of like a drinking glass. That's what we're going to do, is open this up into a thing that can sit flat on a disc that we'll make. So we're going to add a clear button. And I was using that cold glass to scratch that cold glass. It's kind of a trick to make sure that we get a bit or a punty on center in that right center area. So if you have a big area, you need to put something right in the center. It's going to be really hard, even when you're turning, to kind of match that up. So putting something there that can scratch it as he turns, he can find center as he's scratching. And there we have a mark. So we're going to add this little bit here. This bit's going to help us be able to break this piece away as comfortably as possible. So he'll just droop that on. And there's our glass flowing and flying as it does. So it's looking good. Keep that. All right, so here comes that punty transfer. For those of you that have never seen a punty transfer, it's quite magical. So all right, so Catherine here has a pipe in her hand, an iron that is solid. She's going to have a little bit of glass on the end of it as she does. She's going to roll that into kind of a nice round Q-tip shape that will then connect to Dane's vessel there. So that will stick, but it's not a permanent connection. That's connection's meant to come off later. So it won't stick forever. And then once those two have stuck, we'll break that piece along that line that we added earlier. So we're going to thermally shock it. We're going to cause it to crack, and then that crack will run along that line that we created, and that's how we'll get this piece off of that piece. This is the best way to do it. We can't really cut it off because if we did, the two sides would touch, and then we would have to open it ourselves. But having this stay open by breaking it away is the best option. So we're going to get another gather. Make it a larger punty. The larger punty is going to be able to hold that amount of glass a little bit easier. So I would say we're working with probably about 10 or 15 pounds off the end of that rod. Again, it's farther away from the center of gravity, so it's going to be a little bit heavier. But nothing too bad. And so we need temperatures to be correct. We want Catherine's punty to be the right temperature, not too hot, not too cold. We want the piece that Dane has, the dome, to be on the colder side, but again, not too cold. So timing is of the essence. You see that Dane is taking his time for a reason. So we have a punty stick. Once it sticks on, it's kind of within Dane's control. He's going to make sure it's on center. He'll be in communication with Catherine to make sure that she's ready to take that and put it back into that oven as soon as we break it away. A little bit of extra heat there will help in the thermal shocking. We have a diamond file to help create a bigger score, and a tap breaks that piece away. Yes, please do. Well done. All right, that was successful. That was great. I heard some gasps. I was holding my breath. Was anybody else holding their breath? Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah, it can be a little risky. Sometimes when we have that happen, if we don't do something right, the crack will run down the body of the vase, and then we'll have a cracked vase, which is very, very hard to fix. But these guys are trained professionals. These guys have been working glass blowing for over 20 years. They know exactly what they're doing. So right now they're putting that pipe towards the ground, not to elongate it this time. It gets too cold to move. But there might be some what we call little chippies in there. That means just a little bit of that broken glass has fallen inside of that vessel. And so he's going to try to get that little chip out because it becomes an optical folly or something. Doesn't look good. It's like having a random bubble in something that doesn't have any bubbles in it. They got it, it sounds like. Great job. So now you can clearly see the opening thanks to our lovely camera. This is the only place that we have a reheating chamber camera. I think it's amazing. So we're going to open up via that opening there. We'll start to heat up those, the front part. And you'll see him really spot heating this area. So he's really going to emphasize the heat on that top part of that vessel. And that's going to be the lip of the vessel, which is actually the bottom of this one. Usually the lips of vessels are the top parts, like a cup or a vase, right? But the top part this time is going to be the bottom part. Hope that makes sense. Didn't confuse anybody. So more heat over there. Once it gets warm, you'll see it start moving. Dane kind of has an internal timer, as all glass blowers do, to know how much glass or how much time it takes to get our glass warm. And so he'll check on it, that internal timer every now and again, but he's also looking for movement of that glass. It's very slight, so when he turns the other direction, that glass might have kind of a hiccup to get back onto the other side. That's how we know it's warmer. Also by color. So when he takes that out, although that's kind of like our third resource at this state, I guess, is to look for the color because you can't really see it because it's so bright. But he'll see that color when he brings it out. All right, so nice and warm in that front part. You can see a little slight yellowish hue. That tells me that it's warm. He flattened that outside a little bit more. He's going to go inside with this tool here called a parchophy, or parchophies. That's a wooden bladed pair of jacks. So it's a much smoother of a tool to use for this job here. Smoother edges. Plus they're a little bit less thermally shocking. Metal would be a little bit colder than wood, is what I'm trying to say. And so really smoothing out that hump there. The newspaper will do the trick. Catherine's going to go inside that reheating chamber again. Has anybody here seen a demonstration from earlier today? Okay. Did you ever see them turn really fast? It spun all the way out? Right. We're going to make sure we don't do that again here because we want this to stay straight. And that's very easy to do. It is easy to just spin it all the way out. So we're going to turn really slowly. You can really see how slowly Dane is turning in our cameras, just so that it doesn't flare out at all. I think he's even eyeballing the V-board. But we'll see. I won't put any words in his mouth. Oh, I am correct. Here we go. He's going to turn that. You see that kind of fluttering edges a little bit. That's how warm it is. Yeah. Beautiful idea. I don't know who did that. All right, back again to reiterate those lines. You really have to turn fast in this. We don't want a lot of friction on there, so you won't have a lot by turning faster. So that looks great. Dane, take a couple of measurements on that. I believe we're going to put this into our pickup kiln where it will rest. And then we will make the base of the piece and start attaching the cup parts to it. All of our cup parts are in the garage here, which is kind of like the glass babysitter, just letting things hang out at that temperature. So that temperature that we don't like that makes our glass break is anywhere below 900 degrees. So 1,000 degrees is definitely very safe for it. That's great. Look at that. All right, so into our pickup oven. Our pickup oven is set at 900 degrees right now, which is great for adding glass too. That's totally fine. We will boost it up to whatever temperature that they decide. Anywhere, I think I know they'll do above 1,000 degrees to take it back out. And even then, that's very risky. You've got to kind of get to a heat source really quickly, but not to shock it, but just to get it warm. And so to break this piece off, we must also have that temperature correct, as we did earlier. So we want the parts that we're breaking to be able to thermally shock in the right way. And by that I mean controlled and not shock and break the piece, but to break right where we want the water to go. Or we put the water will be the thermally shocking agent that will cool it down to the point of it cracking. And so Matteo is a glass engraver. And so he does the glass engraving, of course, So for this project, he wanted to come here to the Corning Museum of Glass and use our Hot Shop team. And this team here is wonderful to make this creation, something that he needed a team for. All right, so here comes, after a little bit of checking it, making sure everything looks good. Have some water on the back of this. That's going to cause that thermal shock between the cookie part and the punty. He's going to run that over to that pickup box. Josh will open the lid, and we will put that away into the box for now, so we pick it up later. Beautiful. Let's give him a round of applause for that, yeah. Well done. All right, lovely. So part one done. We need to do and make the base, which wasting no time, Dane has jumped to it. And we're going to gather again. So kind of that same process of gathering. I believe there's going to be a hole through this base. There must be. Do we have any questions out there? Yeah. Right. So the question was, do we plan and kind of use choreography and plan this out beforehand? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Especially with someone we haven't worked with before. This is the first time some of us have worked with Matteo, the first time I have worked with him. And we definitely needed to know what he had, what he planned on doing, who's going to do what. And Dane was chosen to gaff, which means he's the one in charge of this. But Matteo was actually the one in charge. He's just the one making this piece, so kind of leading the team of creating this, so the gaffer here. And then the rest of us, just kind of got, well, we need you for this part, we need you for this part. And you'll see, it'll get pretty intense. Yeah, so definitely lots of planning. There are some times that we, plan a little bit less. If we know how to make something really well, we can just kind of get into it. And if, if I have someone with me that's been working with me for quite some time, it's kind of like, I'm going to make this piece, and they're like, okay. And we make it without even talking sometimes, because it just gets in that rhythm. But yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. So another gather out of that furnace. So inside of that furnace there, again, 2,100 degrees, but it holds about 1,000 pounds of our molten hot glass. It's all clear inside there. So when this cools down, it's clear. That tells you about what color our glass is when it's hot, right? All right, it sounds like we're gonna make this bottom pretty solid. So we do have a blowpipe, but we're not gonna use it as a blowpipe. That's okay. It's not like we have to use it as a blowpipe. We can, sometimes the blowpipes will get clogged, but we just unclog them, no problem. But those blowpipes have kind of more stability for a large amount of glass, so it's just kind of easier to use those when working solid sometimes. So we'll gather again. Let it cool down, and you can see how quickly our glass cools. That means it's about a minute before it gets rigid. We have to heat it up again. This time we gather instead. This base is going to be black. So Dane's going to roll in the powder. I'm sorry, that's not powder, that's frit. So he's going to change the color of this clear glass to black. And by that, doing that, he's going to coat it with frit. That's little granules of crushed up glass that will then melt in and coat the glass with that color. So our glass won't magically turn black, but it will allow these little frits to melt onto our piece. We'll probably do a couple of coats on this. You saw that the little granules, right, looks kind of like spots right now. So once we melt those in, bring it back, and roll in it some more, we'll kind of get coverage all the way around it in places we needed it. And so our glass color that we use here is made by a company called Reichenbach. That company is in Germany, and they make lots of different colors there. If you see that kind of cart over there with all those lovely colors, that is all that's just a fraction of what they have. But that company makes all the colors there, and color is made by adding different metal oxides to our glass, to soda lime glass, which is what we use here, just clear glass. So different metal oxides give you different colors. We have gold goes into pink really well, and orange. Sorry, no, not orange, red. Manganese for orange. Cobalts for blue, stuff like that. And black, even this black, isn't necessarily black. So instead, it's just a high concentrate of a certain color. One is purple here, but it's so dark that it looks black. Only if you blow that black out really thin, you'll see the purple tint instead. All right, so we've got all the color we need. Get that into that kind of round shape. We love this round shape. We have to get everything we make in this round shape first. We start from here. So this is that kind of making something out of nothing. We begin from this blob of glass, and we'll make a base from it. So we need a nice disc shape, and we're going to do it out of solid glass. And I don't know if he's actually going to get a gather over this. He is. Okay, he's going to get one or two. Just one gather. Okay. So again, cooling it down, get another gather of glass. Dane's going to do what we call a strip gather. He's going to let that glass fall into that bucket full of water so he doesn't get too much glass. And too much just is kind of determined by how much he wants there. It's not like a too much thing unless it's self-determined, but he let some of that glass fall off into that bucket because he didn't want that much. We're going to create this line here and cut that little bit off. The reason we do that, some of that color got stripped off into the bucket and brought some more of that wrap along the glass. We don't want that to stay, so we'll chop that off. So Dana has to get this blob of glass into a disc. That has to be a certain size. So he had to get the certain amount of glass in order for it to fill that size. I think he's done a great job. So he'll just kind of start to spread this out and flatten it. You can see already that it has taken shape just by him turning that pipe quickly. Do we have any questions in the audience? Or online too. Either one. Why do we have two types of furnaces? Great question. Well, this one here holds all of our glass. So it holds about 1,000 pounds of glass. It's just a really big bowl inside that holds all the glass. And we can just gather that out and use it. And that one over there is void of all glass. It's just a chamber, so it's just hollow space inside. Basically, heat. So natural gas combustion, heat inside there. And we use that for reheating. So there's nothing in there except air here. And this one's just for glass. Same temperatures? Similar temperatures. It kind of depends, really. But this one here, 2100. That one a little bit more than that, 2150. So just a little bit hotter, yeah. Some hot shops do like that reheating chamber a lot hotter. It just depends on, what they're making that day. Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, so Dane's really letting the heat soak in here. Start to spin this out. This is the base that's going to go on the bottom for anyone who's just joining us online. This is the base that's going to go on the bottom of the cup. So we're going to have a foot, we're going to have a base, and then a foot, a stem, and the cup part of the cup, so kind of a goblet shape that's going to be sitting on that base with a dome over it. It's going to be sealed. So it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited to see this happen. It's going to happen all at once. So we have this bottom part here that you saw him just spin really quickly, widen it out. That also flattened it a little bit. And then we have the dome, which is sitting in the box over there behind Matteo. And then we have our garage, which is over here. It's at about 1,000 degrees. It's holding our stem and our cup inside there that Matteo has engraved on. He is an engraving maestro from Murano. We're very, very, very pleased to have him here. So he is the brains of the operation, and Dane is the muscle. And it takes a lot of skill to be either one of those two. Matteo is from Murano and lives there currently. He has his own business for engraving on glass. So if you're ever in Murano, check out his studio. So sizing this up, we want to make sure that it is a little bit larger, maybe, than the actual dome. I can't be the judge of that, though. We will see. These guys are busy bees. That's a question I didn't ask. And so we have that dome there. It is connected to the punty, or that pipe there, because of all the gathering, right? So that little connection there on the actual pipe is called a moil. And that moil allows us to keep the piece on the pipe. It has a kind of a waist in between the in between that bottom part and the moil there. That is the neckline. So we have a neckline there as well. That's how we're going to get the piece off of that pipe later. So we have prepared for that even at this stage. And you must do that at all times. So with planning all of this stuff, right, Matteo comes in with his idea, and we kind of hash it out and figure out how and why and who can do what, all kinds of things. But we also needed kind of a game plan for the whole thing, and Dana and him sat down earlier today and figured that one out together. And in glass blowing as well, we kind of just have to have an idea of what we're doing, because we need to make sure that our parts will work in the right way, for the right reason, the right time, because we've got one shot. We've got one shot to do this. Yep. We can't put this down and go get some coffee, and pick it up tomorrow, you know. So we'll do it all in one shot. All right, so studio audience here. I'm going to tell you about this thing. This is a vertical, right, horizontal. It's a horizontal lineup machine. So we can put a pipe here and the thing that we made, and then the pipe there and the thing that was on that pipe, and put them together. So you see how we're going to do that? And we'll show you that on you online people. Wonderful online people. We'll show you that when we get to it. Is it wobbly? So it's important that this stays sound. You see, we're going to make sure it's not on wobbly ends. Excuse me. And that way when we add this together, we can get it as even and as, you know, we don't want to have any kind of areas where it's off center. Okay, we have a round disc. It's black. It looks red right now, especially on the camera, but again, that's that black part getting warm. So this is such a large amount of glass that we really, really have to take our time and let this cool down. So we have to let it cool down to a certain temperature, kind of reiterate a little bit of that temperature. So again, Josh might go in for another heat, just to let it cool down a little bit slower. That internal temperature is still very, very warm. So the longer we kind of wait and kind of give it a little bit of a flash, which is just a quick little heat, come back, wait some more, then we can get that all to one temperature. That's very, very challenging. So we're not rushing through this. We don't need to. We don't want to. Here we go. Dane's scratching the middle again, so we know where the middle is. That glass, that cold glass that he had in his hand is sharp, and so you can actually score kind of warm glass. And by kind of warm, I do mean, you know, maybe 1100 degrees, but it is rigid, and you can score rigid glass with cold glass. But it just melts away. That's what the beauty of this is that you can score it. You can add, remember he added that button after he scored it, and that button was so hot it just melted that little scar away, because you're just essentially making a mark with the glass, or in the glass, instead of making a mark on the glass. So Benjamin's going to add a bit. He's going to bring the bit over, and Dane will add the bit. Straight up and down. Let that fall onto it, so the glass moving as it wills. Cut that free. Dane is evening that out, getting it on center by squishing it on, making sure we don't have anything off center. Making kind of a little foot there. Okay, so we are going to start connecting all of these things together. The stem is inside of our garage. And so we're going to have Catherine gather up a little bit of glass. That little bit of glass is going to be kind of like our glue to our handle, which is the iron that she's working on. We're going to stick that up. We're going to bring that over to that reheating chamber, get it nice and warm up to our working temperature, which is going to, you know, be hotter than 1,000. These guys are going to be communicating quite a bit now. Lots of talking, lots of do this, do that, which is great. We're all working towards one goal here. Dane right now is putting a hole through this. So if we have that thing, so we have, you know, our cup and our our goblet inside of our dome, and there's no way for air to escape. When we cool that down slowly, it will fracture that cup. It will actually cause it to explode. So we don't want to allow that to happen. We want kind of a drainage, an air drainage hole. So that's what Dane just did with that tungsten. I'm sorry. That's how today's been. Tungsten rod. Just poked a hole through that with that metal, and now we have a hole through a base of it, or a part of the base. And so Catherine's going to pick up the stem. She's going to get a little bit hotter inside the garage. And then she'll bring it out. We're going to add it to the bottom of this. So Dane's going to add another hole just for good measure. We're going to have kind of 2 benches working here. So we've got these 2 warming the stem up, and she doesn't want to get it so warm she changes its shape. So she's just going to get it warm enough that we can bring it over to the stem or to the big base and add it on. And so for glass to be sticky, it has to be moving or above 1100 degrees for it to be sticky. We want it just a teensy bit hotter than that. And so Matteo he's made this stem at home. He's engraved it there with his lathe. So he's got, the stem, and he can just carve marks in it as he goes. And it's honestly a pretty ancient way of engraving. Or engraving is a pretty ancient art form. So Dane here is making sure that we have this even on our pipe. So when we turn it, it's not kind of off kilter at one end. So when we add the dome, everything is sound. Also, once he gets this to set up, it won't move anymore unless he wants it to move. So once he gets it set up, everything's even and aligned, he's good to go, and you can kind of let it cool down. All right, so here is that lovely stem. This is a pink stem. She's going to hand it off to Dane. He's going to kind of align it up, make sure it's ready to go. In a moment, we'll add it. How many questions so far? Okay. So once again, our temperatures have to match. He's going to heat up the bottom so that it's sticky. And Catherine will also keep that warm as he heats that up. They will trade. He will heat a part on that base as Catherine heats the other one. And once those temperatures are matching and we like the way it's going, Dane will add those 2 together. And we'll see that again because we'll break that piece away from that puntee once more. So we've got to make sure that line between the puntee and the piece is sound and breakable, and we can add them. So he made a little kind of what we call an avolio there, excuse me, on the piece that he's got that Ben helped him add. So here we go. We're going to stick that on. It's going to get it on center, turn to make sure it stays. And once we have that on and looking good, we'll break it away from the pipe. And there we go. Yeah. I'll clap for that until. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so wonderful break. He used the coolness of his shears there. He couldn't physically cut the glass, but the coolness of the shears wrapping around and then him tapping where those shears were broke that away. So great job. So now I believe it's cup time. I'm not sure. Looks like it's cup time. And so, if you're familiar with goblets, we have an avolio and a stem on there. If you're not, we have a bit of glass that's about that long, that's all one. And we have an avolio on top of that, which is kind of like a leeway between the two. And here up on the screen is a video of Matteo doing this at home. That is the actual stem that we put on there. You see the lay, the water-fed lay, that is a diamond bit there that is carving through that glass. And he has a layer of color on the outside. When he carves through that glass, the clear comes out. So you'll have kind of clear lines through that glass. You can see how intricate he's working because he's barely turning that as he grinds. And the amount of time he stays there is even each time. So those lines are all the same length and same depth. It's quite a task. We must water feed our grinding tools. If we don't, the glass will get too warm and it will crack the glass. Beautiful work. All right, so Catherine here is going to get a cup ready momentarily. And again, our temperatures have to be right, so we'll keep an eye on those temperatures. All right, so these two are keeping an eye on the piece while we check on other things. We want to always keep that moil warm so that it will stay there, not crack, and so that our piece will stay on the pipe. It's kind of the glue holding that piece on. It's that moil that has all the glass on it. So we'll always be heating that. Not necessarily always, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it at all times. Once we get this cup on, we're going to add the dome to it. And so that'll kind of be like the culmination of all the work we've done here tonight. Do you have any questions out there? Okay. Catherine's making what we call a dirty punty. Should try again. And that is a punty with a little bit of dirt on it so that it doesn't adhere as much to that cup as a normal punty would, so that we can definitely take it off. All right, some more heat over there. We're going to add these two together, so Dane's going to heat up the very top part of that. That torch there is at 3,500 degrees, so it's the warmest thing up here. And we can use that to spot heat our glass really, really quickly. It's called a mid-range torch. we have some heat on that top part. Catherine's getting that cup ready. A little bit of heat on that back part. She'll bring that over. We'll add those two on. Tell it's already beautiful. She will bring it over. There we go. Add that on just like so. Little tap is going to break that pipe away. We have a cup attached to a stem that's attached to a bottom that will be attached to a dome. All right, so we're going to reposition the cup, I believe. So Dane's going to get in there with a little bit of glass, touch it up again, and we'll reposition it. I can already tell it's beautiful. Lots of flower designs. Dane will get it on center and catch it. We'll do a little maintenance to it and then add it to that Avolio. All right. So a little teamwork here, a little maintenance. We're going to look at that Avolio on the stem, make sure that we've got a nice Avolio. If not, we will change it. And the same thing over here, kind of add a different, I guess we'll kind of get that little bit of glass away from the cup. So I'm going to reposition here. Those guys get some viewing over there. We'll get that little nub of glass away. Looks like it won't be on any of the lines at all. All right, so we're going to add a bit more to that Avolio. And so an Avolio is made of kind of like a flat spot and then a waist and then a flat spot. That's kind of my version of how to explain what an Avolio is made of. So right now we have a flat spot and a middle part. We just need another flat spot to go on the bottom. So that's how we're going to add that. Just a little bit of what we call a Maurice. We can flatten that out into the bottom part of the Avolio. So we're going to add a little bit more. All right, so making that flat, Dane wants it a little bit larger for that cup. And then we'll add the cup here in just a moment. It looks a little oblong, which is fine. We can just kind of even that out because everything's on center. Once it's on center, we can even it out. So again, temperature is important, keeping everything on center. We'll add it. We'll make sure it's on center. Turn it all together as one. And then that pipe inside will come off with a light tap. Yay. Let's give them a round of applause. Great, 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 great. All right, so we're going to even this out a little bit, get that cup a little bit more oval or more round shape. We'll be back in business. So the key here is to not get that super hot again. We don't want those beautiful engravings to get too warm and melt away, which honestly would have to get them quite warmer. So we won't be able to, or we won't do that today. So you can definitely see how every single piece of the team has been utilized. Even Mateo's getting in there. He's going to use a little bit of that torch, heat up those jacks. We want to have warm jacks when we're working with glass so that we don't thermally shock it or cool the glass down too much while we're working on it, especially when we're working with something this delicate and finely engraved. So just a little bit on the outside, we can easily form that up a little bit. Just like magic. All right, so we have the goblet, the cup and the stem on the large foot. And then we're going to pick up the lid, Dane says. So he's going to get a pipe, get some glass on the end of that, stick it up to that lid that is inside of the box over there, sitting at 900. Looks like it's up higher. Is that kale net a different temperature? Great temperature. So it's at 1050. Stick it up, bring it out, heat it up as well. We can't really attach it at 1050, so we'll get it a little bit warmer than that. And then we'll attach the two using this lovely contraption, which for those of you at home, we will show you once it begins to come into play. So Catherine has opened this smaller hole quite a bit. She's letting that heat come out of it. She's also turning it down maybe, but she wants that hole to not be such an abrasive heat on that cup when we take it out. So again, thermal shocking is a definite risk to something so large. And so opening that up, maybe it'll drop down to, just a little bit less than 2100 degrees. Maybe 18 or something would be a great heat for that. Just a minimal amount there. So Dane's going to add a little wrap around the bottom of the cup there and add some detail to that wrap. So he's going to do very, very delicately all the way around it. Let that kind of stray away as the glass thins. It closes down. Beautiful little twists of the tweezer there. Creates a nice frilly. I'm sure there's an actual word, but my favorite is frilly for that. Okay, here comes the big moment. It's like the beginning of the big moment, so it'll still take a sec, but have that furnace turned a little damp, more colder. Oop. And so this here's the punty that we're going to add to the bottom of that piece there that Dane's working on now. Okay, Dane's going to go for it here. He's going to open that up. He's going to kind of stick it there. It's going to be a little wobbly. He'll get it up and out of it into the hot oven there to start to warm it up. And Dane has to move very quickly because the outside air is too cold for something at 1,000 degrees. Excuse me, and you can really see it moving quite a bit there as it kind of flops to each side. It's because that punty's a little warm, which is great. We've got this picked up really nicely. He's going to create a way for us to break it off easily. So that line there is going to allow us to break that piece off. Then we can start to get our temperatures ready again to connect the two together. So in order to add these two together, we have to realize that this pipe that has the cup and the base is going to take on a lot more weight. That's why the punty or the moil of it's a little bit thicker, so we can add that weight and not worry about that. But we do need the temperature a little bit hotter so that when that weight is added, we'll kind of be at a happy medium there. We're also going to torch the area that we're going to kind of blend together, and we do want those two to touch and fuse together. So this will be a forever bond. So Dana will touch the lip of that as well. But remember, we don't want to squander the shapes that we have. So we want it to stick, but not to squish. You know, we don't want it to shape differently. So it's a fine line, but these two are really good at finding it. And we'll continue on. So communication is also key. Once again, these two need to, and they have, chatted about how this will go, when it will go. We get to use this contraption here. In the cameras, you can see a really nice ring of heat. Again, remember, look through our glass blowing goggles. If you see different colorations of the glass, that means that it's warmer. It's a little bit harder to see it in clear than it is in black. Black is actually the easiest way to see it. All right, we're going to do a little test drive. Make sure everything's clear. All right, so here comes Dane. We're going to add these two together. All right, add the two. Get that nice and as even as possible here. And then one person will get this, and that person will be Catherine. So Dane will break that piece away. All right. So the dome has been added. We have added everything together here. Now we must make sure everything matches, everything is flush, everything looks good, feels good, is good. Right temperature and movement. And I'll tell you what, that cup sure is beautiful. A little bit of heat on that bottom are going to help to fuse that clear to the black base there. Since those two have been added, we want to get that bottom part kind of polished. It's easy to do that in glass. Let's get it warmer and smooth it out. So there is a seam that we want to polish away with the heat. So we'll use a newspaper here to squish the two together, working again as a team, all of these pieces coming together. We also want temperatures to match. So that area we just got really hot fused together, right? It's a lot hotter than the top part of that base now. So we want everything to kind of be the same. So all of our glass needs to go through what we call an annealing cycle. So this is soon going to head that way. Annealing cycle allows our glass to slowly cool down so that we can get it down to room temperature responsibly. If we don't slowly cool our objects, they will crack and break. So within about an hour, if we put this thing on a table and left to go get dinner and came back, it'd be broken after that hour. So we want to put this away into a kiln, a box of heat, and that heat will be at 900 degrees. We'll let it slowly cool down to room temperature overnight. This one might actually be on for a little bit longer. Well, let's see. And as we slowly cool that, it allows that glass to realign itself. And we can see that tomorrow morning or later, sometime. Do we have any questions out there? We have thumbs up. I like that. Lots of thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Thanks. Awesome. I give them a thumbs up, too. They're doing awesome. So one of those black boxes is where we're going. They have just decided it's the top annealer. Now, we have a program on that. It's actually a beautiful, state-of-the-art touchscreen on that annealer. It's a beautiful thing. And we can program it to come up to whatever temperature we want for however long we want. We can put it on cycles. We can put it on all kinds of different timing cycles. So we have it at 900, and then we'll turn it down tonight. That top part on the piece will be cold worked away. And so that's something that it's kind of Matteo does engraving, but with a wheel, water-fed diamond wheel, right? That's the same thing we would do for the top. We'd grind it away and polish it. Sure, you got it. All right, so we're about ready here. So we are going to break this off from that punty again. A little bit of water, strong tap, some metal on it as well. We'll thermally shock that, and we can break that away. And the crowd goes wild. All right, everybody, keep it going for Dane Jack, Matteo Seguso, Catherine Ayers, Josh Lobbs, and Benjamin Ewing. Thank you all so much for joining us, and everyone online, thank you as well for joining us. If you have further questions, come down and chat to us. We'd love to chat. Thank you so much for coming.